Hi, I'm Lisa Curcio, and I would love to welcome you here to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Today, I'm going to teach you a surprisingly easy fun fold card that has an accordion card feature. And all my cards today have a holiday theme. Now, you can use this fun fold however you like because it provides a lot of area to be creative. Now, I'm going to teach it to you one way, but I have several other samples to share with you in two varying sizes. And keep in mind, even though my samples don't show it, you can change the orientation of this card so that it's vertical versus horizontal. I'd like to give a big shout out to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. Craftsy is an online resource for all things creative. With over 2,000 classes in 20 different crafting categories, there is something for everyone. Whether you like sewing, knitting, crocheting, quilting, photography, baking, or like me, paper art, they have got you covered. As a matter of fact, just recently I was coming up with some fresh new ideas for a family party, and I knew I wanted to make those big jumbo paper flowers for a backdrop. I knew I had the products, but I thought, how am I going to find a quick, good tutorial that's lengthy enough to take me step by step? Well, Craftsy was there for me. Not only did I find one resource for this, but I found several of them. Also, while I was there, I found other great ways to use my paper art. The supplies I have can be used to create centerpieces and all kinds of great theme party ideas. Every single class is taught by a professional instructor, step by step. In addition to that, they are always adding new content. With a crafting community like Craftsy, there are people there that have taken the same course that you can interact with. You can answer questions and share your ideas. And if you love live streaming, they've got you covered there as well. Members have full access to the live streaming events where you can interact with other people taking that same class as you and ask questions of the instructors teaching them. For the first 1,000 of you to click the link in the video description below, Craftsy is going to give you a full year premium membership for just $1.49. It's a great deal. Whether you're looking for a new hobby or to brush up on one you already have, it is a great resource for you. Thank you to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. If this is your first time joining us, we would love to welcome you here to Lisa's Stamp Studio. You're going to find the free project sheet for all the projects I'm going to share with you linked down in the video description below. That's going to be available when tonight's premiere is all over. You'll want to grab that. Additionally, I want to make sure you're logged into your YouTube account so that you can chat with us if you are here in the live chat with us right now. If not, you'll need to log in to leave a comment. I come back and I read every single one. Now here with me in the live chat tonight, you'll see that name in blue, Gina Curcio Holly. She is my daughter, an avid stamper. We are both here in the live chat to answer your questions live, so feel free to reach out to us. Many of you have been asking for it, and we've got it for you, YouTube channel memberships. Now, if you're wondering what this is, it's a great way for you to support Lisa's Stamp Studio for just 99 cents. You'll get custom designed badges next to your name, which will delineate you as a member, and you'll also get custom emojis to use in the comments and in the live chat. All you'll need to do is click the join button, which is next to the subscribe button on a desktop computer. Once you're logged into your YouTube account, I've got a short video there that explains it all. We would love to have you here at Lisa's Stamp Studio as a channel membership. All right, we're ready. Let's get started. We're going to begin with a piece of basic white cardstock as our base. This is cut 5.5 by 10.5 inches, and I chose this one specifically for the demonstration because you can use standard 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I've got my paper trimmer here. It includes both the scoring and the cutting blades. Love that because they can stay right here on the clear track at the same time. They navigate up and down out of the way so that you can leave them on that track. We're going to do two simple score lines. The first one is at 3.5 inches. You're going to see that I've lined the cardstock up here to the top ledge so it's nice and straight. Once we're all set, we'll close that and we're going to score. Then we're going to open up the extendable arm because our next score line is going to be at 7 inches. I'm making sure that this is nice and straight here across the top once again, and then we'll use that light blade here to score. It's going to be really hard for you to see these on camera, but I have two score lines here, and we're going to create a very simple accordion fold. This first score line here on the right-hand side is going to fold in, which is what we call a valley fold. This is an important time now to check the top and the bottom to make sure that they're nice and even because none of us scores perfectly. I'm going to go over that with my bone folder for a nice crisp crease. Now I'm going to flip it over, and this score line that remains now is going to come back on top of itself. And again, I'm checking top and bottom to make sure it's nice and even before I reinforce that score line. When we're finished, we're going to have this. You can see that it looks a little bit like a Z fold. Now this is a very simple format, which means you can keep this as simple or as complex as you'd like. We're going to keep this one easy because I know that a lot of you are going to be banging out a lot of holiday cards this year, but some of you may want to step things up. So that's why I have other samples for you when we're done with this demonstration. My first step is going to be to add designer series paper. Now I can tell you right now that you can make all the papers the same. You can intermingle them, whatever you'd like. In order to make it easy to work with, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to straighten these out and I'm going to make it nice and flat. So I'm going to take this paper and put it here. I'm going to use this paper here, and then I have one other that's going to go here. Now the Stampin' Up! Designer Series papers are double-sided, which means you have lots of opportunities to use them for different things. This paper has been so much fun, and that's what's going to make this card quick and easy. I've got my silicone craft sheet here. I absolutely love this because liquid glue, hot glue, and adhesive will not stick to it, and I'm going to use my best friend for glue, and that is the Precision Glue Press. You're going to find this linked for you on my website under Shop My Favorite Things. And just scroll down a little bit there, you'll find it. I have really bad basal joint arthritis, which means it's very hard for me to do anything with the dexterity of these two fingers without pain. When I first got this tool, I was really skeptical, but I have fallen in love with it. I thought for sure I wasn't going to be able to pull the trigger, but let me just show you how easy it is. It comes with a bottle of Nouveau glue when you buy the press. Don't waste it, go ahead and use it. But when it was finished, I went ahead and I squeezed several bottles of the multi-purpose liquid glue sold in my online store. It is my favorite glue because it's fast to dry and it's very, very strong. I'm using the smallest of the two tips here because I like that real precision needle tip. You will get 2 bottles. The other one is empty. It has a slightly larger tip so that you can choose which is the preference. The glue bottle pops down right inside. It has a fantastic stand here when it's not in use. We'll talk about that a bit more. I'm going to work from left to right. I'm going to flip that upside down and I'm going to use my glue press and I'm going to place a nice thin line bead of glue all the way around the edges. I was never a fan of glue before this tool, simply because I was too heavy-handed. I'm going to place that here so that I have a contrasting color underneath. I find that works well for me to try to find that nice equal border all the way around. Now, while this is inside the stand, I want to show you. There's a little pink plunger here at the bottom, and the needle tip comes into contact with it, which creates a virtual airtight seal, which means this is never going to clog. I absolutely love this. Beautiful decorative needle tip that you can put on when you're ready to finish crafting for the day. But I leave it out all day long and I have absolutely no trouble with it. We're going to move now to our second designer series paper and we're going to use that glue press one more time around the outside edges. As I said, the multi-purpose liquid glue inside this bottle is very strong, so I don't have to go crazy using a whole bunch of it. And I love that because that makes it cost effective, because I don't know about you, but I'd rather spend my money on all the pretty things like papers and stamps than on adhesives. And then our last one. If this is your first time visiting my channel, welcome. I am so glad that you are here. Don't forget to subscribe. You can click that subscribe button and then make sure you click the bell icon and the word all so that YouTube will send you notifications when I provide new content. All right, we've got this. We're going to keep it simple and we're going to keep it flat so we can decorate our panels. We just talked about the designer series paper. This comes from the package called Snowy Scenes. It is brand new. You're going to see that I've cut some images out of here. Now here's the best part. If you're like me and you need to make a lot of cards and you don't have the time to create all the images by hand, which means you're stamping them and coloring them, this is fantastic. You're going to get 2 sheets of this pattern. And of course, it's offered as a bundle with the coordinating stamps and dies. And it's called Snowy Wonder. Now the magic is in the dies with this amazing stamp set. I place all of my dies on a magnet sheet from Stampin' Storage. I love how thick and sturdy they are. You can see that nothing falls off. I have those linked for you on my website as well under Shop My Favorite Things. I am going to show you how this works because the very first time I used it, I was a little surprised. You're going to notice that the die is slightly smaller than the image, but I love that because I'm not going to have any white around the outside edges, or in this case, like that light pink color. That means it's going to look more realistic. Also, what I recommend is that you cut away the snow globe that you want to use before you use the dies. That's going to help maximize the paper. My biggest problem was making sure that this stayed in place. Now, there's a lot of things you tell me you all use, but I love this. This is the Post-it labeling and cover-up tape. It just dispenses on here. I leave the pieces here so that I can use them over and over again. After I've cut out that specific image, I'll lay the die down where I want it. And once I'm happy with the placement, then I will go ahead and now use the Post-it labeling and cover-up tape to tack the die in place. And then you can run it through your die cutting machine and not worried about shifting. Now, I did do that ahead of time, and you're going to notice that all the images are slightly different. So this one's going to be a little bit different than what's inside your project sheet. Like I said, don't throw away the tape. You'll be able to get about 6 uses from each one of those pieces. There's also a die here for the base of the snow globe, and it fits regardless of which shape snow globe that you choose. And I did do that ahead of time, and I have that piece here. I'm going to set this aside for just a minute because we're going to do something more with this. But let's go back to the snow globe itself. When we fold the card as a reminder, remember it looks a little bit like a Z, this is going to be the front of the card on the far left side. So I'm going to begin by flipping this upside down, and we're going to add dimensionals to the back side. Now I'm going to be using the paper piercing tool attachment on my Take Your Pick tool. I cannot live without this tool. It's like my third hand. If you're going to mail your cards, I'm going to give you an important tip. Make sure that you balance the dimensionals you're going to put on the back so that your card will rest nicely once it's received, because your card's going to go through the mail meter at the post office, which is going to have rollers in it. So it does quite a number on your cards. This now is going to get centered here. I want to leave a little bit of room for that base. I'm looking on both sides to try to make it as even as possible. And then once I'm happy with it, we'll tack that in place. I'm going to move this off to the side, and let's go back to the base of the snow globe. From the stamp set Snowy Wonder, there were the words Season's Greetings that I wanted to use. Now you can see that this is going to be a really tight fit, and I was really concerned that if I made a mistake, how was I going to fix it? Of course, I'd have to use another snow globe base, right? And I didn't want to waste those images. So I decided to bring in my favorite stamp positioning tool. This is the Misty. It is the Mini Misty, and I love the teal one specifically because the hinges are encased with metal underneath the plastic hinge, which means it's super durable. It's going to come with a very, very strong magnet. It comes with a little foam mat here. That's going to be great for photopolymer, which are clear stamps. But you can see how tiny that this is going to be, and I wanted to make sure I had room to put my magnet and still have my stamp. And that is where the sticky mat comes into place. So these little sticky mats or sticky sheets are fantastic, and you can tell by looking at it, I've used it quite often. I'm going to place that here in the corner, making sure that it's secure. You can use the magnet if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and place it on there. Now you get 3 of these in a package, and I love it because there are different size grids on all of them. I'm going to place my little piece of paper here with my snow globe here, and this is going to allow me to try to make it as even as possible because I can look at the grid. Now it's tacked down. I'm going to take the image now, and I'm going to position this exactly where I want it. When I'm happy with it, I'm going to close that clear plate, which is going to lift the stamp into the right position. I'm going to make sure that this has stayed inside the corner and does not move because that indicates where we're going to be placing the image. I'm going to be using Garden Green ink, which coordinates with our Designer Series paper. So I'm going to tap and I'm going to ink that up. I am going to close this and rest that on top of the Designer Series paper. Now we've already talked about my arthritic hands, so this little pressing tool has been a lifesaver for me, and I'm going to press out that image, and then I'm going to lift. You can see that the S is really not very solid, so let's do this. Let's do it again, because remember, it's in perfect placement. I'm going to ink it up one more time, and then this time I'm going to close it and then use my pressing tool again. This time when I lift, you're going to see we have a beautiful solid image. I'm using my microfiber cloth that's damp just to clean off the stamp, and then of course that can go back in the stamp case. Now you're probably wondering, how sticky is this? Now when you first get them, they're incredibly sticky. So what I like to do is I like to take them to my jeans and kind of just de-stickify it just a little bit. But the easiest way to remove this is to actually peel the sticky sheet away from the paper. So I'm just going to pull that back, and that's going to reveal the paper itself so that you don't have any bowing or bending. There's a clear cover for your little mat, and I like to leave it right inside the MISTI so I can get that cover right back on there perfectly for storage. We're coming back here to the card base, and I'm going to take that little snow globe base and I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to come back to my dimensionals, and once again, I'm going to make sure that these are well balanced for mailing. I'll use that Take Your Pick tool attachment to remove those paper backings. And then this now is going to go underneath here. Now, before I attach it, I want to show you something. You'll notice that the base really blends in with the background. Now, I tried ribbon and all kinds of things, and it was just too bulky for the daintiness of the snow globe. So let me show you another product that I'm really falling in love with. I'm going to place this right here on my silicone craft sheet where I know it will not stick. This is metallic thread. Many years ago, Stampin' Up! Used to sell it. They do not now. However, I love it, especially around the holidays, because you can see how thin the filament is, which means it adds no bulk to your project, but adds that little bit of shimmer that sometimes you want. Now, it comes in a package of 2 different tones of golds and 2 different tones of silvers, and this one is a little bit more on the champagne side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull off some of this here, and I'm going to determine the length that I'm going to want this to be. So I'm going to nestle it underneath this area here. Now, to get it ready, I've got my Stampin' Seal Plus, which is a very, very strong adhesive, and I know this area is going to be hidden by the base in just a minute. So I'm going to take this around my hand, which is about the width I want, and I'm going to wrap it around several times. Now, there's no right or wrong way to this, and in fact, the messier, the better, because you want those ends to look very whimsical. I'm going to grab my scissors, I'm going to cut off that other end, and here in the center, I'm going to stick it right on top of the adhesive. Now you can see these have now all kind of fanned out, which is really pretty and simple. I'm going to come back to my greeting now, and we are going to attach that right here underneath the snow globe. Now I'm very careful to make sure that I overlap it some, because I want this to look like it's one piece. But that little bit just adds a little bit of texture and just a little bit of shimmer to this area. Now before you join me, I did this next step. I used the detail snowflake die here and one of these with Pool Party cardstock, and I have those here. And the reason I chose Pool Party is because it coordinates with the Designer Series paper colors. I always let the papers determine the colors of my project. Now, while you might be looking at this thinking this is really, really busy, wait until it's finished. I'm going to put those here on my silicone craft sheet, and we're going to start by using my favorite little precision needle tip tweezers, because these are really tiny, aren't they? I'm coming back to my precision glue press, and you can see how tiny I can get those little pieces of glue out of there. And then we are going to tack that here near the top, just to add a little element of interest and to bring in the design of the Designer Series paper. My next step is to always lay out my other pieces, because I don't know about you, but I get really excited about finishing my card, and then I end up putting these things where I don't want them. Now that I've got an idea, I'm going to go ahead and lift this, and I'm going to put just a little tiny drop of glue right where I'm going to want this, and then I can add one of my snowflakes here, and I'm going to do the exact same thing here, just get an idea of where that spot is, add a little drop of glue. When I tell you a little drop, whatever's on the needle is going to be enough. All right, we can slide over now to the center panel. The great thing about this card when it's done is it is freestanding. Once again, before you joined me, I die cut one of these banners from the Nested Essentials dies, and I did that here. I love that trendy stitched border, lots of fun, and I love that there's nestled sizes there so that you can use them to layer on top of each other. This time, I've chosen a stamp from the stamp set, Greetings of the Season. It's one I'm using an awful lot this holiday season for my cards, primarily because I can mix and match the words to make custom phrases, and I love those mixed fonts. I chose To You and Yours. I'm going to ink that up in the same garden green ink that we previously used for the snow globe base. With the stitching facing up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp that here in the center. The Pool Party ink pad. Go ahead and open that up, and from the same stamp set, once again, I'm going to pull out that snowflake image, and I'm going to ink it up on my ink pad, and we'll stamp that here. From that same die set, we've got our snowflake die. We're going to use our post-it labeling and cover-up tape once again, and I'm looking to align the points of the snowflake inside the die. Once I'm happy with it, I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that I tape it down over the paper itself, over the die, and I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Once it's been die cut, I always remove the die from the paper first. That'll allow me to preserve the tape. That's left us with this really adorable snowflake that we're going to add to this greeting. Let's start by flipping that over and adding our dimensionals to the back side. Again, make sure that they are well balanced for mailing. This now will get attached here to the center of the center panel. Just like before, I thought it needed a little oomph, so I'm going to come back to my metallic thread once again. And again, I want to make sure that I'm going to stay within the perimeters of my designer series paper, so I'll just use my fingers, and then I'm going to pinch it off. Again, if it's messy, all the better. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut my loose end. I'm going to put a tiny bit of adhesive right here at the top where I know will be hidden, because we're also going to add that snowflake. Make sure your little ends are all tacked down. Cut the length to your desired amount. And then what we're going to do is come in now with our snowflake. So I'm grabbing one of those dimensionals. I'm going to put that on the back side. And then this now is going to be overlapped. So I'm going to overlap part of the snowflake here, making sure the dimensional is going to rest over the center of those threads, because that's going to do two things. It's going to make sure that the threads are secure, and it's also going to give us a little elevation of that snowflake across the top. Now the back panel here, which is the back end of the card, is where you're going to need space to write and sign. I'm bringing in some scrap paper here to lay this piece of cardstock on top. Remember, all the cutting dimensions for this card, as well as the samples I'm going to share with you in just a minute, are all inside that free project sheet. Again, all the images are coming from the exact same stamp set. There is a Christmas tree in there. I'm going to ink that up, and I'm going to stamp that here near the bottom. I'm coming back to the Pool Party ink pad, and there are several little snowflake images that are inside that stamp set. So I thought, you know what, we'll use those to add a little texture and a little bit of embellishment to this area. So we've got the larger of the two snowflakes here, and then I've got the smaller one here. And I'm going to ink that up, and I'm going to stamp one of these here, and we'll stamp another here. We're going to take this now back here to the card base. I'm going to use my precision glue press, and we're going to go right around those edges. I love that I can get in those corners very easily. And this is going to get centered here. I'm looking to try to keep equal margins on the top, the bottom, and the sides. And then we'll tack that in place. The last thing was it needed bling, just to bring in the shimmer of the metallic threads and give it a little bit more of a holiday feel. I'm using the Sparkle Gems. They have glue dots already on the back, which is going to make them very easy to use. I'm going to pick up one of the larger ones. I'm going to place it right here in the center of my snowflake. I'm going to move over to the next panel, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Let's play that up, that little bit of silver there. And then finally, I'm going to come over to one of the smaller ones, and let's top that Christmas tree. Make sure you give them a really good push to make sure they're stuck. And then when you're all finished, you're going to have this accordion fold card. Very, very simple. It's all about the decorating. When it's freestanding, it will stand like this, and obviously on display at someone's home would fit nicely on a mantle or a table. Plenty of room to write and sign. If you need more room or you want to add a family photo, you have lots of space on the back as well. This fits in a standard A2 envelope. Now let me show you the other samples I have for you. This next card uses the Reindeer Fun Bundle, stamps and coordinating dies. Lots of fun with this one because you can use the dies standalone to create 3D reindeer heads, and then of course decorate them with wreaths and bells and all kinds of fun things. And of course it die cuts the images as well. There is coordinating designer series paper to this called Reindeer Days, some of which I used here. This paper is actually from another package called Iconic Celebrations. The beauty of Stampin' Up! Products is the color coordination, so mix and match to your heart's desired. The die is part of the die set, and it die cuts the negative, which allowed me to die cut also the designer paper, just like we did here, for the reindeer here. This time, I embossed the greeting on a piece of pecan pie cardstock just to bring in the color of that reindeer. Versamark the background, expanding that card once again. Let the designer series paper do all the work here in the center. And on this end, you'll see that my panel actually has a very simple sentiment and a Christmas tree. But I want to call your attention to something. Do you notice the size difference? This card uses 12 by 12 cardstock, 5.5 by 12. It's going to fit still in a standard A2 size envelope, but you'll notice that the width is just a little bit broader. So there's really no right or wrong way, just depends on what size cardstock you want to use. Now I have one more for you. This one uses the brand new Decorative Trees bundle, stamps and dies. Again, very, very abundant. Lots of uses for this because you can stamp, die cut, or a mixture of both with some very traditional greetings inside. Now this card I stepped up. Beautiful designer series paper. This paper is from a different package. It's called Sentimental Christmas, and $3 from the sale of the Sentimental Christmas Suite or the designer series paper. Stampin' Up! Is donating $3 to help children's literacy for Christmas this year. Added some ribbon underneath the focal point of this card, and you'll see those dies here in action. I stamped off the greeting to create my own random background. Just added some edged with some gold foil. We'll go ahead and open this up. Now keep in mind the card is going to expand. I chose to add a little adhesive here just because I know when I expand the card, the ribbon is going to move. And it's going to probably come out if it's going to be on display, but at least it's not lost. On the inside of this card, we have a heat embossed greeting with some layers, pretty designer series paper. I repeated this pattern here, stamped some trees at various layers, and you'll see that I blended some color here with a blending brush. That same blending brush technique was used here behind the greeting and here on the cardstock. This was actually white cardstock that I just added old olive ink that I blended on, just like I did here, just to give it a very simple muted color and to correspond with the designer series paper much more easily. 3 beautiful options. You can keep it super easy. You can step it up or go all the way. The decision is entirely yours, as well as the size. It's a busy time of year with the holidays approaching, and maybe you want to make your handmade cards, but you don't have to spend a lot of time, especially when you use the designer series papers to help you create the images. As always, I love to know your favorite. Will you make your card in the 8.5 by 11 cardstock, or will you pull out that 12 by 12 and make a little bit bigger card, both still fitting in an A2 envelope? I would love to know. Pop down right now in the comments and let me know which one you prefer. If you love exclusive designs, I have you covered with Stamp Studio memberships. Every Monday to your inbox at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, you'll get an exclusive project not shared anywhere else designed by me. For just $5 a month, you'll get an array of card ideas that you can use every single week. Now, if you're a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I have got you covered because none of the photos or the tutorials are watermarked. So you are welcome to share them and distribute them and use them for classes and events. And perhaps you just teach classes, maybe at assisted living facilities, and you're not a demonstrator. This is a great way for you to jump on some new ideas without having to go through the entire creation process. And if that's not enough for you, there is level 2 for $10 a month, which includes everything in level 1, but also a monthly fun fold card. I also give you a discount code to use in my PDF tutorial library, and everyone in level 2 is in a random product giveaway every single month. You can find all the information over on my website under memberships. While you're over on my website, do me a favor, scroll to the bottom. There's a little form there, fill it out, and I will keep you in the know and continue to inspire you every week with my free weekly e-newsletter. It is no frills, and we would love to have you join our email list so that you are always the first to know about promotions, sales, and all kinds of goodies here at Lisa's Stamp Studio. We are thrilled that you have joined us today, and I look forward to having you join me next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.